Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Old Hunt, where I am still celebrating Bloodborne's 10-year anniversary. It's going to be a long playthrough, it's going to be a long celebration, and this game deserves it. I just love it that much. And it sounds like a lot of you do too. This is one of the first episodes that I'm recording This is the first episode that I'm recording where the playthrough has been available for people to watch. So the first, I believe, 3 episodes are out right now, and I've been getting some feedback, which is incredibly helpful. Thank you to everyone who's left feedback on my process and the playthrough so far. I'm definitely going to be keeping your suggestions in mind, and if you weren't making suggestions, it was just nice to hear from you. I think this might be the first time I've really started a series and gotten some, strong levels of feedback right from the very beginning. It really helps me find what a series is going to be when I get that sort of feedback. And I always do a certain amount of fine-tuning on my own. If you look at the very first episode of Translation Born and the very latest episode of Translation Born, there's a lot of change that happened along the way. And a lot of that came from just me doing my own fine-tuning, but also I feel like the biggest leaps have all come from viewer submissions, viewer feedback. And so the earlier I get it, the better these series can be better. So again, thank you all. And this has been fun. I hope you've all been having fun coming along with me on this journey. One of the things people have been asking for is for me to not, slow myself down too much on the lore. And I haven't really been able to do that, as you can tell anyway. I've been talking about lore and translation this whole time, even though I said in the very first episode I wasn't really going to focus on that. So I guess you're stuck with me doing this, and you asked for it. If you're one of the people who didn't want that, sorry, this isn't going to work out. I tried. But yeah, and I do think people have made good points about, me not really commenting as much on the lore in Translation Born. I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about the lore, to be quite frank. I feel more comfortable giving people pieces of the puzzle than I do trying to put it together myself, just because I sort of feel like, and this is one of the fundamental things that I feel about all the Souls games, but Bloodborne, I think, sort of in particular, because it's so potentially vague, is that I don't think there is a fundamental truth of Bloodborne. And I just want to, my interest is, can you make all the pieces fit together with your theory? And if you can, is that compelling to you? It's sort of the 2-step process, right? Because there are some theories where the pieces all fit together, but I don't find them compelling, right? I feel like, oh, well, that's a valid theory, right? It fits all the evidence that we get in the game, but I don't know if I like it. And I'm sure there are people out there who feel the same way, and people have already been saying. I said, I think that this world we're running around in right here, my sort of default assumption is that this is actual reality. This is the real world. And the dream may be able to influence it, and especially if we're a spirit running around in the real world. It's a little bit weird. That's sort of why I call it a crazy lore theory. So while aspects of the dream are able to influence this, I still see this as the waking world that the doll talks about. When the doll says, may you find your worth in the waking world, I think she's talking about out here. And some people think the whole thing, even this, is a dream. And that's a theory that I've been sort of going back and forth with in this playthrough in particular, because I think if this right here that we're running around in is a dream world, then it makes a lot of sense why you would be able to interact with it as a spirit, because spirit interaction in dream worlds is something that, as we'll see, is pretty standard in Bloodborne. So you can still have a whole game where things matter and take place, and even this world here is a dream. And my intuition for a long time has been to sort of push back on that, but other people find that compelling. And their intuition is telling them, yeah, that's the coolest way to tell this story. And I don't want to take that away from them. Quite frankly, I don't want to find any slam dunk evidence that shuts down that particular theory. I mean, it might. I don't think it exists, but it might. And I do know that, and I talked about this in previous episodes in the series, I do know that there is some evidence that's there in English that isn't there in Japanese, and that can sort of, it feels a little weird to put that out there, but again, I do feel like your theory, if you're going to have one, should fit everything we know about the game. But, I found my bloodstain. So this actually reminds me, I wanted to talk about, and I think I sort of offhand mentioned it as part of the last episode, this game changes something of the Souls approach to retrieving your lost, well, in the earlier games it would be souls. In this game it's blood echoes. So normally the way these games work, the way they've worked since Demon Souls, is you run around the world, you eventually die, like I died to this boss, and when you do so you leave a blood stain. It's got all your old blood echoes in this game in it. And so if I pick this up, ooh, echoing blood retrieved. Interesting. I wonder if they changed the Japanese release, because I know the Japanese 1.09, it still says pray, no, not pray, it's like hunt, fulfill? No, not fulfill. It's a different message. There's a different English message when you beat a boss in the Japanese version of the game than there is in the English version, because the English version is pray slaughtered. And the Japanese version of the game, there's still an English thing that pops up when you beat a boss, but it's not prey slaughtered. But I'm pretty sure in 1.09 of the Japanese release, even when you pick up the blood echoes here, it doesn't say echoing blood retrieved, it says blood echoes retrieved. So, interesting. I wonder if that was further proof that they were really thinking about the term blood echoes, if this is like a remnant of an older thing, or maybe this is just the Japanese version. I'm curious how that would have gone back and forth. How strong the back and forth was with the developers on terms like blood echoes as opposed to echoing blood. Interesting. I'm also going to need to compare. Maybe I've just been spacing out in Translation Born for like 8 years, never commenting on how echoing blood retrieved has been on the screen. Boy, I hope not. I'm gonna like find some reference footage and put it in there, put it in here in this episode, and you'll be able to compare and see what's going on with the blood echoes message, because that's super interesting to me. To me, I don't quite know what to make of it yet. To be honest, I still don't know what to make of it. However, with the benefit of time, I have thought of a few things that I wanted to share. To begin with, the fact that the developers chose to update this instance of English text in the Japanese release, but not the "you hunted" message, indicates to me that they believed this change was a significant one. As for why they might have deemed this change worth making, I've been considering how these two wordings put a different emphasis on what's being collected. The phrase "echoing blood retrieved" focuses on the blood. Yes, it may be echoing blood because it's full of blood echoes, but the key substance would seem to be the blood itself. By contrast, the message "blood echoes retrieved" puts the echoes front and center, with your bloodstain serving only as the medium that contains the echoes until you're able to recover them. Of course, that may or may not have anything to do with why that message was changed, but that's what I would identify as the key difference between these wordings. Now, I'll leave it to Gameplay Matt to get back to the point I was making before I was blindsided by that change. I was talking about how the process of retrieving our blood echoes works in this game as opposed to in the preceding Souls games. Anyway, we die, we come back, if we can touch our blood stain, we can pick up our blood echoes. And if we die again on the way, the old blood stain goes away and then a new one takes its place. So, you can permanently lose blood echoes, but if you get any more trying to get back, you can pick up those, and so on and so forth. There is a difference, there is a variation in the way this works in Bloodborne. Because so far, I haven't said anything different from how the Souls games have worked. And the difference comes down to enemies in this game can, if they sort of naturally walk over the path of your bloodstain in the world, they will pick up your dropped blood echoes. And they sort of start to like take on this glowing purple look to mark them as the enemy that has your blood echoes. I think I actually had this happen to me when I was fighting that big enemy towards the very start of the game. So maybe I can put up some footage of that on the screen, and you'll see what I mean. But they have the ability to pick them up, and you then have to defeat that enemy in order to get your blood echoes back, which is another way that we're seeing the life and death struggle come back in Bloodborne, right? You can't just count on passively being able to run around and picking up your blood echoes and dodging all the enemies, as you could in the Souls games. All of a sudden, you're in this different situation where the blood echoes are in the enemy. That enemy has to die. And I think that is an interesting variation on the formula, and also a very fitting one for Bloodborne, especially considering one of the themes of the game that the devs themselves have talked about. Another interesting thing in terms of development of Bloodborne. Look at this. Look at this. This is the most famous door in Bloodborne. if you haven't been following the history of Bloodborne, the fan community, for a while, that might sound insane, but it's true. It's true. You can come to the other side of this door, and at some point we'll get there. I don't know if it'll be this episode or the next one, but at some point we'll be able to come to the other side of this door, and we'll be able to interact with it and get a message that says it doesn't open. And that sort of frustrated everybody, because they know spatially, okay, here's one side of the door. Spatially, here's the other side of the door. We can't open it from either side. What's going on? Are we, like, making things up? Do the doors not quite line up? Well, it's been a years-long process, but people found out, like, relatively early, you could stick shining coins on one side of the door, run around to the other side, and see the shining coins still there. And so it proved, basically, that one lines up with the other. And then, I think it was Lance McDonald? I could be wrong, but at some point, again, years after the fact, people were able to get into the game files and, I don't know if hack is the right term, but I'm going to say it, hack into the game and figure out, oh, actually, these things really do connect. Do they, though? You may have gone a bit too far with that statement, Gameplay Matt. Hi, everyone. Editing Matt here to provide some clarity. First of all, there is indeed a full video on this on Lance McDonald's channel that you can check out for the full story. I've linked it in the description. Second, and more importantly, I should mention that what seem like two sides of the same door no longer connect in the final build of the game. However, they used to connect in the alpha demo, so it's clear at one point they were intended to link up. Furthermore, as the trick with the shining coins indicates, some aspect of this connection still remains. If you're curious about what the door looks like with all those coins in it, I've linked to a video by Illusory Wall in the description as well. Okay, now Gameplay Matt can take over again. So you can't actually open this. This was potentially going to be a shortcut, but for, game development reasons, it had to be turned into not a shortcut. And it's sort of a shame, but we got years worth of frustration and at the same time interest out of it, which is sort of fun. This door, this giant gate, never opens, as far as I know, and was never planned to open. And as you could probably have guessed from that note in that house, where they were writing, the cathedral ward was sealed off. The Great Bridge entering the cathedral ward was sealed off. I'm pretty sure that's this, and possibly this as well, at least on this side. The idea being you would have to at least be in the cathedral ward to access this shortcut. Because they didn't want anyone from this side coming in. And if we're talking about lore, then I think it's interesting to talk about how we have this note where people say the Healing Church, they're worried that the Healing Church is shutting them out, right? I don't know how many people normally would want to get into the Cathedral Ward on a Night of the Hunt, but what they're afraid of is the Cathedral Ward is just looking out for the Cathedral Ward. Things are better over there. They've shut this gate and this door, and now all the communication is passed. We can't get any sort of access to whatever goodies may lie in the Cathedral Ward, access to more authoritative parts of the Healing Church, I'm not sure. But whatever it is, it's been locked off. And the interesting thing is, you remember how I talked about that boss hopping over that wall there? Well, things actually don't seem like they're that much better in the Cathedral Ward, do they? If that's where that boss came from. So I think that's an interesting bit of storytelling there. And very sort of Bloodborne, right? They give you all these pieces, you can connect them how you want. Maybe that wasn't what they were going for at all. And but it is potentially there. And I think that is interesting, because you could have it gives you the first set of clues to realize this isn't just any Night of the Hunt. And remember, the note that we found talks about a particular moonlit night when old Yharnam was abandoned. So people have seen this before, and it's not ordinary, right? Ordinary Nights of the Hunt, you're out and you're running around and there's chaos in the streets, but you're not closing off parts of the city and then letting them burn to the ground. That is horrific enough that people are afraid that it's going to happen again when these doors are shut. And despite that, we're seeing signs that all is not well, even in the Cathedral Ward. So something weird and unusual is happening when it comes to the hunt tonight. So there we go. There's some lore for you. And now, if I haven't lit this already, all right, I'm going to light this lamp and then head back to the Hunter's Dream. Oh boy. Are we going to make any progress this episode? I don't know. This might just be a total lore detour. Oh, something to point out. Remember when I was talking about how these Bath messengers, like they see particular value in the people who hold the badges, and the access to more badges give you access to more items in the shop? Well, note that when I was saying that, there were 2 of them. At the very beginning of the game, there was 1 of them. Now there are 3 of them. So with each badge we get, we're seeing a new messenger. I think I commented on Clappy Hands messenger, the Clappy Hands sort of being a shopkeeper type gesture in Japanese culture, which is sort of fun. And then we have, looks like he's holding a blue elixir, sort of the bottle that's all blue. That was messenger number 2. And Bath messenger number 3 looks like they're holding either a blood vial or a pungent blood cocktail. I'm not quite sure what that item is, but that's messenger number 3. So we're increasing the number of messengers in the shop. And since we're talking about lore and translation, we need to talk about this item, the Kirkhammer. This is the church's stone hammer, quite literally. Great translation, I think, because Kirk means church, and so calling it the Kirkhammer, making it a single term, is just really clever. But this item really threw me for a loop when I first came across it in Translationborn. Because if we look at the final set of lines here, the last little 2-line paragraph, we'll see that the Japanese is closer to the Healing Church Workshop is one of 2 factions for hunter trick weapons, and it is said to have once been secretly located somewhere in the Cathedral Ward. Hi again, I'm editing in this audio after the fact because it took me forever to get through this information in real time. Anyway, note how the Japanese description hints at the location of the Healing Church Workshop, while the North American version of this description instead reads, "The church takes a heavy-handed, merciless stance toward the plague of beasts, an irony not lost upon the wielders of this most symbolic weapon." Meanwhile, the British English text for this weapon concludes, "Trick hunter weapons forged in the Healing Church Workshop, said to be hidden somewhere in the Grand Cathedral, were made to the tenets of a rival school of craftsmanship." This last version almost matches the Japanese, except that it says the workshop was once in the Grand Cathedral, not the Cathedral Ward. But to transition us back to gameplay, Matt, let me note that when it comes to Cathedral Ward versus Grand Cathedral, I literally made the same mistake mixing up those 2 locations in Episode 3 of The Old Hunt, so I can certainly understand that happening. We're all human, especially when these updates come in at the last minute and you just have, like, a lot of the times they don't even give you the surrounding context. They just give you, hey, we changed this 1 word in this 1 line. Change it now. And before, the first time you worked on it, months ago, you've got the full context to look at. Now all that's gone. You just have this new thing to translate, and you sort of hope. And it's very easy for mistakes to creep in at that point of the process, if indeed that's how this process worked. I don't actually know what the behind-the-scenes situation was like in Bloodborne, but the projects that I'm informing, that are informing my experience, it's a total mess once those updates start happening, because all the context suddenly disappears, everything's hectic, the developers scrambling to get things out so they don't have as much time or resources to answer your questions. It's just a nightmare. So again, I don't blame the translators for getting this wrong, and it's sort of a miracle that there's any version of the game where it's close to correct, but the North American release, sadly, I think because the translation team is based out of the UK, as you can sort of get from the official voice acting, therefore, for the most part, I think the UK English version of the game is a little bit closer to the Japanese. It's not, the interesting thing is, it's not one-to-one, it's not always that case, right? The story I just told you is very indicative, but it is not the complete story. And if you check out my episode that I did on the differences between the various English language releases as compared to the Japanese releases, it's wild. I don't actually know what happened, because there are some ways in which the North American release has better English, and there are some ways in which the UK English release has better English. And I'm saying UK. It was also the same version that released in, like, Australia, places where I think British English is more commonly spoken or accepted, and as opposed to the North American version, which uses US-based English and is mostly released in the North American territories. But anyway, that's a very long tangent, but I think it's an important one because I think it also helps explain some of the other translation issues that we're going to be running into. And at some point, I would like to buy that Kirkhammer to show it off, because again, I want to show off a lot of weapons on this playthrough, but we're still at the part of the game where it's sort of a pain to farm. And speaking of which, it looks like I've exhausted my supply of blood vials. So the maximum should be 20, just like my bullets, and they auto-replenish whenever you reload an area, and here I am back in the dream. I load into a new area, or go back to the dream, or reload an area. They sort of auto... Maybe not when you reload an area. Definitely when you go back to the dream, and go from the dream into the... I would say waking world. Some people would say other phase of the dream, that is Central Yharnam. Your blood vials and quicksilver bullets auto-replenish if you have them from storage up to maximum. But I don't have those, so this is the storage box, by the way. But I played, I think, an entire playthrough of the game, never knowing that this was a storage box. Like, there's a little image that's sort of like it that pops up when something goes into storage as opposed into your direct inventory, and I didn't know what that image was. I didn't know that storage really existed. I saw, you could see in the like item menus that you can hold up to 99 of a thing in storage, but I was like, okay, but where's the storage? It's right here. And here you go. You can store your possessions in the storage box. Items that you pull in here can also be retrieved, right? You can pull them back out. So you have to go into one of these menus and then press the R2 button. And as you can see, I have more quicksilver bullets to draw on. I do not have more blood vials to draw on. So that's unfortunate. Gonna have to do a little bit of farming before I fight the next boss. But I don't know. I think maybe... This is just going to be a lore episode, guys. I'm so sorry. You asked for this. I wanted to do it too, but still. We'll figure it out. We'll get a good mix of lore and grinding and story progression going as this series goes on. So bear with me. Give me more feedback, and we'll figure it out. But I do want to point this out. The Molotov cocktails that we have here, we have 2 of them in storage. They don't auto-replenish. I've still got only 5 in my active inventory. So only some of these items auto-replenish. And if I recall correctly, when this game came out, this whole active inventory versus storage box thing was sort of new. I know that they had something like it in Demon's Souls, but they also had a system where you could only have so much weight's worth of stuff on you at a time. Like, there was equip burden and there was item burden. And so you constantly had to be putting things in and out of storage in Demon's Souls so that your... item burden would get too high, and you'd like walk around at a snail's pace and could hardly do anything. It was debilitating, or you just couldn't pick stuff up, and it was annoying. So they sort of streamlined that for the Dark Souls games. You could just sort of run around with everything. I think the first Dark Souls you had to buy an item to do it. I don't really remember what it was like in Dark Souls 2. But this particular system where you have an auto-replenishing set of items for the blood vials and the quicksilver bullets, and a limited, a set of specific limits as opposed to the general weight limit, I believe is new to Bloodborne. So they went through and they're like every individual item, you have a certain number you can hold in your active inventory as opposed to your storage box in the dream. And I think they were sort of figuring out this system, because I think it would have been better if you could just auto-replenish all your resources from storage to full as necessary. But they went with what they went with, and that's fine. If you're really looking to conserve resources, like, it sort of makes sense to not always have to be going back to storage. Oh, and I wanted to show off. I did this. I completely forgot to properly greet the doll. Oh, perplexed by that one, huh? What if I just give you a hunter salute? Yeah, I'm glad you appreciated that. What if I, where's my wave? Here we go. Let's just give her a wave. How very respectful of you to give me a bow. Isn't that cool? I just... little touches in this game. I love them. That one's great. So...
Welcome home. What is
let's go ahead and level up.
Very well. Let me...
And I was talking before how I love the sort of fiction of how all this works in Bloodborne. And how they give you this wrapper around the mechanical systems and how leveling up is channeling. But that dialogue they give you every time, I like everyone else, I'm anxious to level up. I skip past it a lot. So I'm skipping past it in this one too. I think, if I remember correctly from when I was on the Kirkhammer screen, we need a minimum of 16 strength in order to use that one. So maybe we'll push my strength a bit. I realize this is putting me behind on, like, an idealized build path, but I don't care. I'm going to be grinding anyway. Might as well do, like, might as well just play it this way. And as I said before, like, people can play this game without leveling up at all, so it's just a question of how much you want to, like, fall back on the RPG systems and the grind and this, that, and the other thing, right? You can streamline this game experience for yourself, or if you're not afraid of throwing a little bit of extra time into it, you can grind and get the resources and make it easier that way. So we're going to do that, and maybe we're going to get...
Farewell, good hunt.
Maybe we're going to get all the way up to... Well, I could do one more level. This is another unique option to Bloodborne. You had to use things one at a time in the consumable menu in other versions of this game. However, this... starting in Bloodborne... I think starting in Bloodborne, I don't think this was Dark Souls 2 thing, although it might have been. I don't, as you can tell, I don't have a strong memory of Dark Souls 2. I did play the game a few times, but it has not stuck with me as well as some of the other titles. But you can now go through and just use a whole bunch of items at once, and boy, is that a nice feature. I think they ported it back into the older games when they did the, like, remasters or re-releases or whatever they're called. But it's right here in Bloodborne, so that's good to see. So let's just go ahead and use a bunch of those. And now I should at least be able to get one level. Let's see. Still concentrating on strength. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to get 2. All right. But we're almost at the point where once I actually buy the Kirkhammer, I'll be able to use it. Because again, I want to show off for the 10-year anniversary a lot of weapons in Bloodborne. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make that a priority. And I don't have to grind on camera. I might do a little bit in this episode because, man, I haven't even gotten to the grind. And already I've been talking for forever. This is amazing. Okay, so I've had a loading screen's worth of time to think about it, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sort of one run through, do a quick grind on camera, and then I'm going to switch over to the dialogue I didn't get from Iosefka, and I'll sort of explain what's going on with that. I'll do a little bit of editing, and then when that's done, I'm going to come back and do even more grinding, and I will do that off camera in between episodes, and I will, of course, update you on what changes between now and then. Yeah, look at that. Now I can one-shot these enemies because I've leveled up. I'm thinking the reason I'm getting those shining coins, by the way, like I would have much preferred blood vials, but I think one of the reasons I'm getting those shining coins with such regularity is because I am what's it called? Where's the house? It's up the stairs. Okay. I am doing the arcane build, and one of the things that happens in an arcane build is it raises the drop rate. Now, I don't know if it actually increases the rarity of the item drops, but it might. The fact that I've gotten antidotes from the crows and the shining coins, just 2 drops of shining coins from those big guys, is indicating to me that maybe the higher arcane, which if you have a higher arcane stat, it boosts what's called your discovery rating in the game, and that makes it more likely for you to get the item drops. And potentially, someone who knows more about Bloodborne than me can verify what's actually the case here, or I'll look it up, one or the other or both, and you can figure out whether it actually increases the rarity of or increases the likelihood of rare drops, because I was really expecting to get at least one set of blood vials from that enemy, or those enemies together. I would have preferred to get, a set of like 6 or 8 blood vials, since that's what I'm grinding for, but I'll take what I get. Oh, and this is something else that someone in a comment alerted me to this fact. And I just lost my chance to demonstrate it. But another interesting thing about the rally system is you don't just... Because I was saying... You remember how with the rats, I was saying how it doesn't have to be the enemy that you fight that you rally health back from? Because of the way this system works, every time you get a rally at all... Oh, there we go. This is why this particular farming route is so good. But every time you get a hit on an enemy, you rally back a little bit of health. So if you can actually catch multiple enemies in a rally string, then you can rally back health way, way more efficiently than you could if you're just fighting the enemy like one-on-one. The thing is, it's also harder to get multiple enemies because of the nature of the combat system in Bloodborne and just the Soulsborne games in general. So you're less likely to take advantage of that, but if you can make it work, you're incentivized to do that, and I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, we have that thought. Oh, and I forgot about Gilbert. Okay, I'm gonna show the Iosefka thing, and then we're gonna go check in with Gilbert and advance our own personal story of the game. Advance our own personal story a little bit with the game, and then I'll call that for the episode, and I'll see you in the next one. I don't know why I'm making it sound like I'm closing it out. I'll be back with you in a minute. Boy, I get so scatterbrained when I do these episodes. Anyway, I could have just run down from Central Yharnam to here, but I didn't want to use blood vials, and there are enemies in between the two places. And likely I would have been able to defeat them because they're not very difficult enemies, but I didn't want to take any chances. That's why I happened to warp around. Anyway, although what I probably should have done, now that I think of it, is not bothered about the enemies because I came here specifically to use the Iosefka's blood vial. Let's use this. And I don't think we get a different dialogue for just using one, but let's verify that.
You're safe, thank goodness. But I'm afraid nothing will change. I cannot open the door. I'll do what I can, of course. Perhaps this will help you, if only in some small way.
I'm glad I checked.
Now go. I pray for your safety.
Oh, I'm real glad I checked now, because that was different. I think this next one will be a repeat, though.
Are you still in need of something?
Okay. Yeah, that's a repeat. But the replenished vial after your first interaction, getting the first Iosefka's blood vial, is different. But anyway, we need to use 5 of these, I think is the correct number, before we get a new dialogue from Iosefka there. So I'm going to check back in with you after a little bit of editing magic, and we'll have used all 5. Okay, we are back. And one of the things I was reminded of, because I just looked at the Bloodborne loading screen quite a lot, that annoying old Bloodborne loading screen, that's just the word Bloodborne on the screen. One of the reasons people were, I think, rightfully upset back when this game first came out, and probably still to some extent would be if it were to come out this way again today, is that a lot of TVs have issues with burn-in, and if you've got just one static thing on the screen for long loading times, it could burn into your TV. So another, thing to consider that slipped my mind when I was just looking back on it. But we should have the new dialogue, so let's talk to Iosefka again here.
You are safe, thank goodness. But I'm afraid nothing will change my mind. I cannot open the door. I'll do what I can, of course. Perhaps this will help you, if only in some small way. This night is long, but morning always comes. Someone of your caliber won't fail us, I am certain. And once the night of the hunt ends, we can speak face to face. Then I can finally see what you look like. I shouldn't be thinking this, but I am rather looking forward to it. So please, be careful out there.
And there you have it. The first part, I'm pretty sure, was the same, but that final bit of dialogue about finally being able to see our face. Well, first of all, that's what a lot of people wanted from this game, was more NPCs that you could actually see their faces. Also, as I was talking about that sort of human connection, she gives you that little bit of saying, someone of your caliber won't fail us. I think you can see some of that human connection in a mad world coming through, which is cool. Yeah, and I don't really have a lot to say about that dialogue, but, if we're going to focus on, cool things about Bloodborne and the lore, there you go. I think that is a very interesting bit of extra dialogue you can get if you use Iosefka's blood vial a lot. Also, there's a sort of implication that if you use people's blood, they start to feel an affinity for you. I don't know how gamified that is. Like, it could just literally be you taking in a lot of their blood has some sort of direct effect on the relationship lore-wise, or it could just be a sign of continued interaction. And I don't know which one of those things it is. Take your pick. But anyway, remember how we came to Yharnam with a purpose? We came here, we woke up, we found a note in our own hand. It said, "Seek pale blood to transcend the hunt." And we came and talked to Gilbert, and he said, if you can go across the town to the east, you'll find the Cathedral Ward, and in there, the Grand Cathedral, and they know all about these different types of blood. I'm sure if you go there and ask about pale blood, you'll be able to get an answer. Well, based on what we saw with that Cleric Beast, maybe that answer won't be quite so forthcoming as we thought, but also, we couldn't get through the doorway to the east, that outlet on the Great Bridge. We had one purpose, we went there, and we had to turn around. So, how are we going to get to the Cathedral Ward now? Because we're still interested in pale blood. What's going on? Gilbert, do you have any more advice for us?
Yes, I see. But the Great Bridge is the only way to the Cathedral Ward. And during the hunt, the bridge is closed. You could try the aqueduct. There's a rather, how shall I put it, colourful area south of the Great Bridge. From there, an aqueduct leads to the Cathedral Ward. Not a place you'd normally want to visit, but I don't imagine you have much of a choice, do you? An aqueduct leads from the town south of the main bridge to the Cathedral Ward. Not a place you'd normally choose to visit, but not much of a choice with the bridge closed. An aqueduct, not a...
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So, now we learn we're supposed to go through over an aqueduct. So, quite literally, it's like a bridge that brings water, something like that. I should have put it up on the screen, but oh well. I can put the exact term in editing. And we sort of already know where that is. We need to go through the aqueduct. That's sort of the sewers, the dry docks, the areas that we were running around in a few episodes back. And apparently there's sort of a backdoor entrance, and yeah, obviously less than ideal. We're going to have to go through the sewers. That's why he's saying we wouldn't normally choose to go that way. But apparently we can find our way into the Cathedral Ward from there. So we have a new purpose, still to find our way into the Cathedral Ward and then the Grand Cathedral, but the first way was shut, now we got to try another way. So a little bit, I think it's super interesting how, if you look at this game from like a direction standpoint, they give you sort of a direct through line through a lot of the game, but it's almost impossible to find or think of. The first time I played this game, I was just completely lost. With the benefit of hindsight, I can sort of see the intended path, right? Like I was saying, oh, hey, he told us to go east to try and get into this Cathedral Ward, and we went there, and the bridge was closed, which, by the way, I was saying before, at like the start of this episode, that, it's sort of unusual that the bridge would be closed on Nights of the Hunt, but Gilbert's realizing, oh, wait, silly me, they always close the bridge on the Nights of the Hunt. Not sure if that's a conflicting bit of information or not, because that note was freaking out about it. Actually, there's a potential translation-related explanation for my confusion here. In the Japanese subtitles, Gilbert uses the formulation to nareba, which indicates that he's taken in our information that the bridge is closed for the night of the hunt without necessarily expecting that to be normal. You should be able to see the difference in the translation on screen. However, as I'll let Gameplay Matt explain, this doesn't end up making a huge difference to what I believe is the most important point. But maybe this is normal operating procedure, and the person who wrote that note was under the influence of like a paranoid mindset, and that is also potentially indicative of how unusual tonight's hunt is. Because if this is something that always happens and people are forgetting about it and freaking out over it, that's weird. So whichever way you interpret the lore pieces there, I think that general idea that I was talking about before still holds up, even though apparently I was wrong in one of the details. Anyway, this has been a very lore-focused episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun making it, so I'm not averse to doing more of this stuff in the future. But definitely let me know. Like I said, feedback really helps out with the series. In the meantime, between now and the next time I see you, I'm going to do some grinding. I'll catch you up on the changes that take place in between episodes. And I hope that you will join me again. And as always, thank you all very much for watching, and good hunting.